products, these foods, you'll see in this first picture that I'm not shy when it comes to using these products. Starting at age 2, it's mandatory that each of my grandkids have at least one shake a day. Now, at 2, they only have a single scoop shake, but many of them come back and ask for a second one. The neat thing is to watch how healthy and strong each of my 17 grandkids are. There's a reason for that, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. First of all, let me show you a picture here, if I can bring it up real quick. Many of us will recognize a fun-looking Corvette. And for the men on the call, we know how to take care of a car. We know that we don't abuse it. We just admire and love it and take good care and change the oil and put good gas in and wash it and keep it in good repair. The interesting question is do we all understand how the car works exactly? Unless you're a mechanic, you may not know the gas and air ratio. You may not know the compression ratio inside the cylinder head. You may not know when the spark ignites the gas in the air. We may not know how the piston pushes the rod down and turns the crankshaft, how the crankshaft then moves through the gears and pushes them, how the gears then turn the drive shaft, which is connected to the differential, which is connected to the axles, and then finally the wheels push against the ground and push the car forward. But without understanding all of that, and especially without understanding how in the world the explosion underneath the hood that's taking place many thousands of times per minute, how that could be safe is the fact that we trust the engineer of the car. We understand that he and they, starting with Mr. Henry Ford, designed these things, and that they do know the ratios, and they do know when the spark plug's supposed to ignite, and they do know how the compression ratios work, and everything that drives the car forward. And so all we ask for is the key. We need to know where to put the gas. We need to know how to turn it on. And once we've done that, we've got an incredible vehicle at our disposal to do all kinds of things to get us from point A to point B, but more importantly, to do it safely and conveniently. Now, as much as we trust an engineer and his design to get in a car and trust that if we have the key we can make it go, I would like to introduce you, in my opinion, to another engineer. This is probably the world's finest human engineer. Why? Because John Anderson has been doing this for 35 years, designing the fuel and the system that makes the greatest creation on the earth, which is the human body, even greater. Help it perform. Now, the real engineer of the body, of course, it's God-made. It's beyond handmade. It beats any Maserati. It beats any Rolls-Royce or any other form of vehicle. There's nothing to compare to the human body. Just for instance, in numbers alone, it regenerates itself. Every 7 years, it replaces over 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion cells. Take a long time to count that far. Each cell requires a quadrillion pieces to make one healthy cell. It's producing those cells at the rate of about 1 billion per minute. And it all takes place automatically. It's built in. That's how miraculous this body is. And it's capable of living up to 120 plus years. However, most of us are cashing in around age 75. John Anderson is in the industry and the work to help those 75 years be the healthiest, most prosperous 75 years we could have. But more than that, let's add an extra 10. How about adding an extra 15? What would it be like to add an extra 25? I think it can be done. John Anderson's teamed up with somebody who actually is putting the brakes on aging in a big, big way. But we'll be talking about that in just a moment. First of all, John came out of retirement after working for about 25 to 30 years with some of the biggest nutraceutical companies in the world, starting with little companies like Nature's Way and Medirex and GNC and the U.S. government, to name a couple. And he made in excess of $1 billion worth of his formulas for all of these 600 different companies. But he learned a lot while he was doing this from each of the companies he worked with, because he sat with their pioneers, he sat with their engineers, if I could use that word, their scientists, their scientific boards. Each of these companies had numerous biochemists and doctors of nutrition, both MDs and PhDs, and he learned from them. But they all wanted him for 2 or 3 reasons. One, he knew as much or more about plants and herbs than anybody on the earth, in my opinion. Possibly Dr. Young knew a little bit more, who was one of his mentors. But not only knowing herbs, he knew the human body, because he had studied biochemistry also, and he knew how these herbs reacted within the cells, and that they would help the body. They would feed the body. They would give the building blocks, the quadrillion pieces that it needed to build one healthy cell at a time, ending up with a healthy body. He also recognized that we live in a toxic world. So he came out of retirement 10 plus years ago to make a food that would make a difference for every person who used it. And this food I call a superfood. And a superfood does 2 or 3 things. One, it helps clean the environment of the body. He realized, number one, if you put good on top of bad, much of the good is wasted. You can't drop great things on top of a garbage pile and expect it to still work very well. So his first idea was, let's cleanse the inner vessel. Let's cleanse the body itself. And though the body is trying its hardest to do that work on its own, we've introduced so many toxic chemicals and substances and GMO foods and artificial flavors and artificial colors and preservatives and toxic air and toxic water that has heavy metal and pesticides and herbicides and all of the other suicides that hurt the body. He knew that we need aid in cleaning the body first. And so his very first building block in his arsenal of superfoods is something called Cleanse for Life. Now the Cleanse for Life comes in both liquid and powder. The ingredients in this new Cleanse for Life are phenomenal. John recognized that if you can use the herbs that have been around for centuries, proven to be effective, they're gentle and yet effective, that you could help the body cleanse important filters such as the colon, the liver, the kidney, the lymphatic system, the blood itself. If you can keep these things clean, obviously they will work longer, they will stay healthier, and the environment that the body is now going to live in is going to improve your health versus create problems for your health. So cleansing was his first major breakthrough. In my opinion, Isagenix could have been built around just this one thought. But he went further than that. Remember I mentioned you have over 100 trillion cells? The Cleanse for Life juice works at cellular level on all 100 trillion cells, not just the big filters. It's going after the water-soluble toxins, it's going after the fat-soluble toxins, and it's going after the things that build up in the cells, such as old medication, the metabolic waste, heavy metals, things that don't belong there. This product has an opportunity to help the body relieve and help it rinse out of the body. So now that you've cleansed the body, you do one thing right after that, you feed the body. So the Cleanse for Life juice isn't just a cleansing technology. It's also a feeding technology. There are so many nutrients in the Cleanse for Life juice that are particularly good for the digestive system. I believe John realized a major thing, that if your digestive system is in trouble, if it's impaired, if your digestive system is not working well, the rest of the body is in trouble. It's actually in starvation mode because it has to move through the digestive system to get into the rest of the body. Knowing that, this Cleanse for Life juice not only helps cleanse the digestive system, it helps support and deliver incredible nutrients to the digestive system. One thing I've noticed in the last 10 years working with the Isagenix products, my friends who have digestive challenges from small to big, 1 ounce or 2 every day of the Cleanse for Life juice makes a huge impact on how much better they feel, and in my opinion, how much better they do. So, pillar number 1 was to cleanse the vessel, the inner vessel, clean out the impurities, have a good place for you to live and to reproduce those cells in a healthy place. Second was to nourish, which Cleanse for Life does, but then the next product does it even more spectacularly than that. And that's our incredible isolene shakes and isolene bars. They are perfect high nutrition food, and they're not very expensive. The main source of the nutrient comes from New Zealand. It's the highest quality of undenatured whey protein in the world. This New Zealand whey protein helps build lean body mass. Now that's your muscles, that's your heart, that's your liver, that's your kidneys, that's you, okay? It's what really makes you up. The neatest thing in the world is that it contains this particular isolene shake, in my opinion, contains every building block needed, including the missing building blocks of the all-important key minerals. Those all-important micronutrients called minerals that help everything else work together. There are actually 72 supercharged trace minerals in here. And John realized also it needed a delivery system. That's why he included live enzymes to help the body break down the proteins and the fats, and then pair up with them and carry them into the body where they're needed to be able to build your body. Now what's really neat is what it does for your immune system. We all know that the immune system is what protects us from diseases such as colds, the flu, pneumonia, and even cancer. The second leading cause of death in the United States is cancer. But if you have a healthy immune system, it starts to remove your name from that list, which in my opinion is what we all want. So the isolene shakes, most complete food. Why? There are 4 key nutrients that the body has to have. They're called essential nutrients, called essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, essential vitamins, and essential minerals. Interestingly, it's the minerals that are missing in most of our daily foods because they're grown in soil that we've used pesticides and herbicides on. We've killed the ecosystem. We've sterilized the topsoil. Those little microorganisms no longer convert rock minerals into water-soluble minerals. The water-soluble minerals cannot be uptaken if they're missing, and so all of the fresh foods we're eating are depleted in huge amounts of these trace minerals that we need. Your minerals become your chelators. They are also needed to build every cell. So when they're missing, our cells aren't as healthy as they could be. Our immune system especially isn't as healthy as it could be. Do you realize that your immune system, which is your major protector, can produce up to 20 trillion immune soldiers? 20 trillion, 1/5 of all of your body, could be nothing more than soldiers to protect you from colds and flus, pneumonia, and cancer. But if it doesn't have building blocks, it can't build very many. Or the ones it built are missing things like arms and guns and legs, okay? If that makes any sense. As soon as you're on this superfood, my gosh, you've got all the building blocks so that the body can start to rebalance itself, start to be as healthy as it was designed to be. So the isolene shakes, the isolene bars contain those nutrients. Another key element about them is that they're low calorie, low glycemic, which makes them very friendly for people who have blood sugar issues. Low calorie helps us have a complete meal with all the nutrients we need. It's nutrient dense food without the high calories, so our body can start to metabolize or utilize the stored fuel in our fat cells. That's why we see these tremendous, wonderful weight loss stories. Isagenix wasn't originally designed just to be a weight loss. That's a secondary, auxiliary, just ancillary benefit of the Isagenix foods. As the body rebalances itself and burns out all of the excess fuel, suddenly the pounds and inches safely drop away. What's really neat is that the people who've gone on the program and lost the weight 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, 9 years later, still have the weight off. That's why it's so good. Most diets do not have any of that to claim. 98, 99% of all diets fail within the first 24 months. Everyone has gained all the weight they lost and gained even more back. That's just the opposite with Isagenix, because this is a lifestyle. It's a food. Okay? Hopefully that all makes sense. All right? Well, the third thing that John decided to add was called the Rejuvenator, the Ionic Supreme. His first pillar was to cleanse the body of impurities. His second pillar was to nourish the body with every building block possible, a delivery system to carry it in of live enzymes, even herbs in it that would replace the friendly flora in your digestive system, and all of the nutrients the body needs to thrive. Okay? The third thing is he realized we live in a world that has got a lot of stress, especially if you are married or have children or grandchildren. You have stress in your life. That's normal. But we're somewhat overstressed, and sometimes going to school or raising a family puts us in harm's way, because stress steals our energy, lowers our potential for our immune system to have a good reaction when it comes in contact with a negative source, and we end up going from a cold to pneumonia overnight because of high stress. The Ionic Supreme was designed to help us fight stress. The adaptogens which are in there adapt to the needs of the body, and the most high stress area gets the most, and it helps fight that. We use in the Ionic Supreme over 100 active ingredients, if you can even imagine what that means. Over 100 active ingredients means in the Ionic Supreme you can take all of the other juice company products on the market that I have ever heard of, add them all together, and you would not have the potential of Ionic Supreme. This is a crowning jewel of John Anderson. And those plants and herbs that he used are some of the most superior in the world. It enhances mental and physical performance. I love it for athletes. Okay? Then we go on to pillar number 4. Pillar number 4 is called our Ageless Essentials, our daily pack, our AM and PM pack. That simply means you take a pack of these little capsules in the morning and a pack in the afternoon, and they're designed specifically for men in one area and for women in another area. So they're gender specific. And what they have in them is pretty phenomenal. First of all, we have what are called Ageless Actives. The Ageless Actives are incredible because of their ingredients. Just the ingredients in that one alone is enough to convince me that I should take these on a daily basis. They start with what is known as CoQ10. CoQ10 is produced by the body. Up through about the age of 30, you're producing quite a bit. Now, what does CoQ10 do? Well, it moves and conducts the electrical charges in the cell to be able to move from, say, the mitochondria, which is the battery, to any other part of the cell that needs the electrical charge to create the chemical reactions, to get the message from the DNA to the mitochondria. Now, up through age 30, you produce quite a bit. From 30 on, you start producing less each year. I'm 63, so I'm producing probably half as much as I did at age 30. Not anymore. Now that I'm on Ageless Actives, I've supercharged 100 trillion cells. CoQ10 is incredibly good for the cardio system, the heart, particularly in the brain. Next, you have the Essentials for Men or the Essentials for Women. This is a specific vitamin mineral capsule that John Anderson specifically researched. The most needed nutrients, particularly to help with the reproductive areas of the body, both for men and women, and help your immune system and your hormone system for the woman on the reproductive organs. Then you have the third product in there, the Iso Omega Supreme. Anybody who knows about the omega-3, the omega-6 oils, the omega-9, realizes how important these omega oils are, particularly for the heart, the brain, and the joints. But it's not just to get a source of it, it's to get a clean source and the kind of source that's in balance. You have to balance your omega-3 to your omega-6 or you waste it. Well, it's exactly in the right balance and it's the cleanest source. We've got the best omegas on the planet. And then of course we've got the C Light number 4, which is a vitamin C. 3 different types of vitamin C. All 3 from natural sources, time release, and as you know, vitamin C is an incredible antioxidant, but more than that. What it does is load your immune system with the bullets it needs to take care of the enemy. So now you've got C Light. So we now have the Ageless Essentials with the Ageless Actives, the Essentials for Men or Women, the Iso Omega, and the C Light, doing incredible work as antioxidants. Okay? Keep an eye on my time here. Whoops. So, here's our 4 pillars of health. Cleanse for Life, Protein Shakes, Ionic Supreme, Ageless Essentials. These 4 pillars, when used correctly on a monthly and daily basis, set you up to have such a clean running machine, a trim machine, a healthy machine, a body that responds, that has what it needs to be healthy, especially when you add exercise, stress management, and proper rest. Now comes the last pillar, and this pillar is most unique. Product B. Here's our genius, John Anderson, best human engineer in the world, knows more about plants and herbs than probably any other person I know. He meets another incredible doctor of science who for over 30 years has looked at molecular science. That means at cellular level under a microscope. He's observing how cells work. He's trying to find a cure, believe it or not. For the first 15 years he looked at cancer and what can we do to get rid of this. And in his research and study in the early 90s he ran across a most peculiar thing. How does a 30-year couple give birth to a child whose cells are not 30 years old, since the original 2 cells came from mom and dad at 30 years old? The child should be born with 30-year-old cells to start with, but of course he's not. And that's because of something called telomerase. Telomerase is an enzyme that is released inside the cell itself that produces telomerase. Telomerase, well, let's back up. Remember, we're building 1 billion new cells per minute? So we're replicating cells, and every time we replicate a cell, the end of the DNA, the little tail of the DNA, gets shorter by several clicks, from between 25 and 250 clicks shorter. And you eventually run out of telomere. Okay, that thing that is shortening is called the telomere. And as the telomere shortens, it gets to a point that it can no longer replicate. At that point, that organ is aged and starts to die. Okay, it's the biological clock that creates death. Well, in some of our reproductive cells, it turns out that this enzyme called telomerase comes out and rebuilds the telomere to its original length, never allowing it to shorten. So you almost have an eternal cell that will not get older. Well, it turns out that when we're in embryo state, telomerase is going on in all of our cells, yes, from top to bottom. But that turns off at birth, and only the reproductive cells and a couple other select cells keep telomerase going, because something subdues that enzyme. Well, Dr. Bill Andrews has been working literally 30 plus years, in the last 16, 17 years specifically, on how to discover a way to turn that gene back on, turn that enzyme back on, and release telomerase. Well, in 2009, the people he'd been working with got the Nobel Prize for Medicine by proving you could turn on and turn off telomerase. And they even did it with some experimental mice, turned old mice young. Now, Dr. Bill Andrews had looked at over 300, is it 300,000? Yes, 300,000 different chemicals and compounds to discover how or what could turn this on. The only problem is when you're working with chemicals, they have side effects that are usually negative. Along comes John Anderson and says, hey, let's team up. Let me show you some plants and herbs that I believe might accomplish the same thing. Thus, product B was born. When it was born, Dr. Bill Andrews, to quote him, said, "The world as we know it will never be the same." Here's something for you to know. I'm friends with a wonderful doctor in Las Vegas. He's an MD. Now, doctors aren't the easiest person to convince that nutrition is going to have that big of an effect. He came on a little skeptical himself, but he put the product in his body and saw tremendous improvement. When product B was introduced, he thought, okay, here's my chance to actually test scientifically if product B will make a difference in my life. Even though I've been on Isagenix, all 4 pillars, for a long time, I'm going to take a sample of my blood, send it to the laboratory that can measure my telomeres. And so off went his sample. Back came his information. Now, I don't know and can't remember his exact age, but let's say he was 45. Here's the good news. The telomere measurement showed him, even though chronologically he was 45, his physiological body was super strong, super healthy at the age of 40. So the first 4 pillars were working wonderful. He was feeling healthy and good. So they put the marker down. He had now a baseline of 40. He went 4 months with all 5 pillars, so he's now including product B. Kind of fun, huh? Takes another sample of his blood, sends it into the lab. They send back the information and say, wow, you're no longer 40. Physiologically, you're 37. In 4 months, something marvelous had happened. Now, we cannot make claims that we're reversing age. We cannot make claims that we've even produced telomeres. What we can do is use the product and see how we feel. And if we have a little bit of money that we want to invest, get our telomeres measured, wait 6 months and do it again. My guess is you're going to see an improvement each time you do. But until the science is in, we can make no claims of reversing people's age. All we can do is tell people that we have the most dense food for the telomere on the planet, bar none. We also have all the scientific evidence on the first 4 pillars. The scientific evidence for product B will not be released, I'm sure, for 2 to 5 years, as it takes a pretty good long time and a great number of people to be able to have it reviewed by their peers and then publish it in the journals. But I, in my opinion, believe that's coming. Well, according to my watch, I probably spoke in overtime, but I just want to thank you for being with us tonight. If you're new to this call, and I hope there's a whole bunch of new people here, here's what I'm going to challenge you. Go on all 5 pillars. Do a full 30-day cleanse, which is cleansing 4 times during the month, whether you do it 2 days in a row with 5 days in between and then 2 days again, or once a week for 4 weeks, and you're putting this incredible food of the Isagenix shake in you. You're watching pounds and inches melt away. You're doing incredible things for your telomeres and your antioxidants. Here's what I believe. We've got the right products, we've got the right tools, we've got the right promotions and the right opportunity. Isagenix gives us an opportunity to say this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You want to look this good? You better be on the product. These are my 2 little grandkids, and they're both Isagenix babies. Yes, Isa babies. And in all honesty, here's my little 2-year-old grandson holding his 2-week-old baby sister, both born with Isagenix in their veins. Why? Because their mother for 9 months lived on protein shakes and other good foods. She continues to live on the good foods while she nurses her little ones for the next year. And they are healthy and strong. We've just had one of the funnest Christmases in the world. All of us got together. Isagenix gives us an incredible opportunity. These 5 pillars were meant to work together. And in my opinion, we're all going to see very similar results to my good doctor friend down in Las Vegas. Now, he has actual scientific proof because he's got this before and is after. That will help you. Let's do the same. Let me take just a second and say thank you to Debbie and David and Richard, Vicky, Joyce, Avray. Good to see you guys. Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope to see you. Oh, by the way, Thursday, Rhonda is going to be on Thursday and just give us an incredible way to explode our business. This is the new year. This is the year we all need to do this. We've got the vehicle. We've got the products. They do what they're supposed to. It's time for us to get out and make a difference and put our name on that millionaire list, okay? So do not miss Rhonda Collier this Thursday at the same time, at the same address, okay? Bring your friends on. This is for us to invite people. We can learn this information, share it with each other. It's right at the comfort of their own home. All they got to do is dial us up. Appreciate you being here. I hope to see you on Friday because Isagenix New Year kickoff is this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down in Phoenix. Guaranteed to blow the lid off of even more things. Hang on, everybody, because the best just got better. They promised to announce some new things that are just going to light the skies that much more. But we already have the best. Trust me, these 5 pillars can do everything we want them to. We can look as good as my little grandson and my granddaughter. I want to outlive them. That's why I'm so grateful for product B. But I'm going to put them on it when they turn 30. All right. You guys have an incredible night. I'm just reading if there's any last minute questions. Good night, everybody. I do hope that they announce the vegan shake too. I got my fingers crossed on that. But if they don't, I know it's not far behind. Happy 2012 to all of you. Appreciate you all joining me tonight. We filled up the phone lines and the webinar. It's just going to get that much better. Everybody throw a great big thank you to Jay Bennett whenever you see or talk to him or an email to him thanking him for this forum, for us to all be here. That's neat that he's willing to pay for it. It's all free for us. So thank you for joining me tonight. See you Thursday. Actually, I will be in Phoenix, but I'll try to dial up if I can get a little time off. If you're in Phoenix, I'm doing a presentation actually right at 7 p.m. on Thursday at the Hilton Inn. It's free to anybody who wants to come. And I'll be doing a 2-hour seminar on what I just covered tonight, only I'll be going into a lot more detail of the ingredients and why they work. That's the Hilton Inn Airport, 7 p.m. Thursday night in Phoenix. Have a grand evening, everybody. We'll see you soon, hopefully at New Year kickoff. Good night, everybody.